Do you remember those straightforward home wins? As well as Jan, today we've also got the esteemed company of James Pearce, who is at the AXA waiting to hear what Arne Slot has got to say for us today. And James, just that boring run-of-the-mill 3-0 home win in the FA Cup, rubbish.
Morning, guys. Yeah, as you said, Matt, it was a welcome relief, wasn't it? It feels like a long time since Liverpool had a home game that was quite as straightforward as that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And perhaps we should be careful what we wish for at times. What are you expecting from Arne Slot this time around, James?
Yeah, I think there'll obviously be a focus again on that kind of troublesome right-back position in terms of who's likely to fill in on Sunday at the City Ground. Of course, Jeremy Frimpong isn't far away. I know he didn't train yesterday, so that probably tells us that Sunday's going to come too soon for him, but I'm sure he'll be asked for an update on Frimpong. And of course, then he's got a decision to make. If, as expected, he isn't back, then, does he stick with Curtis Jones, who I thought filled in there brilliantly in the FA Cup last weekend, or does he go back to Szoboszlai, who of course, has shown that he can fill in almost anywhere. He's such a gifted footballer, Szoboszlai. He was the one, obviously, that he turned to in the previous Premier League game. So yeah, I think there'll be a focus on the fitness side of things. There'll also be a focus, I think, on the resurgence of Mo Salah, because he looked much more like his old self in that game against Brighton. I think he has adapted to what Slot has demanded from him post-AFCON. And of course, I'm sure there'll be a general chat about the importance of building on this positivity and momentum from these last two results.
Yeah, and Jan and I were just discussing that often the managers talk this season about opponents throwing curveballs of sorts at Liverpool with the way they've either set it up or started the game. And you don't quite know what you're going to get, I would think, on Sunday, because we've seen what Vitor Pereira did at Wolves, but this is Forest with a different squad. Yeah,
I think it is a very, very difficult game for coaching staff and analysts to prepare for, because as you say, Vitor Pereira's only just gone in there, had very little time to try and put his stamp on it. Of course, they actually play tonight, which that gives Liverpool an advantage in itself, doesn't it? The fact that Forest are playing Fenerbahce just 3 days before this one. Liverpool, usually it's Liverpool with the quick turnaround facing a team that's had a long break. This time around, Liverpool have had a decent few days off and then back on the training ground yesterday. So yeah, it is difficult to know what to plan for against Forest on Sunday, because when a club's on their fourth manager of the season, and the panic obviously set in with getting rid of Sean Dyche recently. I think there'll be all eyes on that game against Fenerbahce to try and find a few clues ahead of Sunday.
Yeah, two positives I would think there. Yeah, and one, you get a window on what he wants to do, and B, they have to play a tough game in Istanbul just 3 days before they meet Liverpool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And they would have used a lot of energy already this week because of a new manager. Yeah. And then you lose a lot of energy tonight as well, because this is important for Nottingham Forest, the European Cup competition, and that comes from their owner. He puts a lot of emphasis on European football, so that'll be a big game, although I do tend to think that their priority is switched now. The priority is now survival in the Premier League.
Yeah, and James, that again is part of the issue, I think, or part of the conversation around this game, is that be careful that the kind of wounded animal and the desperate team that wants those points to get away from the trapdoor.
It is, yeah. It's definitely a dangerous game for Liverpool on Sunday. As much as when you look at Liverpool's recent upturn and Forest's struggles, you think there is the opportunity there for Liverpool to really build on those recent wins. But we know that the City Ground will be bouncing on Sunday afternoon. I've been down there. The recent meetings in recent years have all been really tight games. You think back to last season when Diogo Jota came on and rescued Liverpool a point in that game. I think before that there was a 1-0 win, there was a 1-0 defeat before that. That they always tend to be pretty tight games down at the City Ground. And also the kind of wounds from that home meeting with Forest back in November are still pretty fresh, because the last time these clubs met, Liverpool were absolutely stuck in a rut, and that's arguably the nadir of their season so far.
Thank you very much for the moment, James. Appreciate it. Last slurp of coffee before the boss turns up for you, and we will speak to you later, all being well. Thank you very much for the moment. Right, I'm sure It's not one many Liverpool fans have rushed to look back at that often, but here's a reminder of the Anfield clash earlier this season with Forest. Yeah, not a great day from a Liverpool point of view, and as James said, maybe that was kind of the deepest that the trough went around that time with PSV and that one.
Yeah, it feels like that, doesn't it? And again, the importance of the first goal in a match. We started the game quite well for the first 20 minutes and couldn't get that first goal, and once they got the first goal, it was almost as if the whole game flip-flopped. And those open spaces that Forest enjoyed was quite incredible. I mean, Elliot Anderson and Gibbs White caused us a lot of problems on the day. Those open spaces they won't find on Sunday, but they did play well, you know, credit to them. It was almost as if you thought Sean Dyche's team is not quite capable of producing that performance, but they were, you know, did really well, and it was a well-deserved win.
Yeah, and I was at Forest's game against Wolves last week, which was the demise of Sean Dyche, but it was a reminder, although they didn't play well, that they've got good individuals, haven't they? You mentioned Anderson and Gibbs White, who are clearly very good players. Murillo might be back this weekend, who is a very promising centre-half, both ends of the pitch.
I just think when you look at their squad, I think they're massively underachieving. Yeah. You know, some of the other teams in the bottom half of the table, you go, they're about where they need to be. But this squad is massively underachieving. And I think that's something to do with the fact also that the owner feels that way, isn't it? Yeah. Hence the reason that he keeps sacking managers and going, I want more from this squad of players. And I fully understand why. They are better than what they're showing at the moment. Hence the reason that normally you wouldn't necessarily have to chalk up a game and go, this is a really difficult game when you play fourth from bottom, but this has become a really difficult game for Liverpool.
Yeah, maybe the owner should just become the manager. Yeah.
Maybe and if you suggest that to him, Matt, I'm sure he'll say, what a great idea.
Yeah, well, indeed. I mean, for a fourth permanent manager in a season, I take exactly what you're saying about he thinks they're not getting the best out of the squad, but can't be good for any set of players.
No, absolutely not. But I think it goes back to the back end of last season when he didn't qualify for the Champions League, and then all of a sudden the owner is disappointed. Nuno starts the season under pressure. Their recruitment and some I thought was really poor. They always spend for us, to be fair. They spent 150 million. I thought the recruitment was poor, and it was only a matter of time before Nuno was shown the door. And then you go from having a manager who plays in a certain way to then having Ange Postecoglou who plays totally different. That was short. He was never going to be given enough time to turn that tanker, you know, and well, he was only there for relatively short. And then you bring in Sean Dyche, and you said you were there against Wolves. I mean, what did they have? They had over 30 odd shots, didn't they? You know,
they did.
And I think Sean Dyche only lost one of his last 6 games.
Yeah, but
he was, you know, again, I think it comes from the owner. He's going, I don't like what I'm looking at.
No. As you rightly point out, Ange came and went in the blink of an eye, really. But the knee-jerk, different approach that happened was part of the problem, wasn't it? And then Dyche to Pereira, well, we'll see. He had a good kind of new manager bounce feeling when he got into Wolves.
So I think if you look at them, Nuno is a defensive coach, so is Sean Dyche, and Ange Postecoglou is an attacking coach. I think Vitor Pereira is a little bit of everything. Yeah. You know, I like him. He's not a manager who hangs around for long at football clubs because he's sort of very aggressive in his demeanour. But I think he's a good manager. I think he gets the right message across to the players. And I think the message he gets across to the players is a positive one. Yeah. This is what I'd like us to do. Whereas I always get the feeling that Sean Dyche is safety first. I think this guy will be different. So it'll be about getting some energy into the legs and showing what they can do. And I think he'll achieve that.